Have you ever met someone who smiles at you but secretly wants to see you fail? These people aren't always loud or obvious. In fact, the ones you should fear most are often quiet, calculated, and patient. They don't confront you directly. Instead, they blend in, pretending to be friends, colleagues, or even family. This isn't about paranoia. It's about awareness and survival. The truth is, not all hatred is loud and not all enemies reveal themselves. Some people aren't just indifferent toward you, they actively want to see you fall. The scariest part, they won't announce their intentions. They wait, they study you, they manipulate the environment around you until it feels like everything is crumbling, and by the time you realize it, the damage may already be done. These hidden threats often come from people who appear to be allies. They listen, support, and smile, all while collecting information and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This is why protecting your peace, setting firm boundaries, and sharpening your instincts is crucial. It's not just about defending yourself physically. It's about emotional resilience, self-awareness, and being smart enough to know who really belongs in your life and who doesn't. The silent observer. The most dangerous threats are not always loud or obvious. A predator that roars before it strikes gives its prey time to run. But the deadliest ones, they wait, they watch. They blend into the background unnoticed until the moment is right. By the time you realize you were being watched, it's already too late. Some people don't just dislike you, they want to see you fail. But unlike enemies who make their hatred clear, these people don't insult you or make direct threats. They don't need to raise their voice or show you their intentions. Instead, they operate quietly, deliberately. I call them the silent observers. This isn't just a nosy coworker eavesdropping on office gossip or an ex who checks your social media occasionally. A silent observer studies you with purpose. They track your movements not out of curiosity but with intent. And the most unsettling part, you often don't notice because their goal isn't confrontation, it's infiltration. Have you ever had someone mention a place you were even though you never told them about it? Or maybe someone keeps showing up in your daily routine, at the gym, the coffee shop, even places you consider private. At first, it seems like coincidence. You brush it off. But when it keeps happening, when their timing is always perfect, it becomes too much to ignore. In today's world, tracking someone doesn't require hacking or high-level espionage. It only requires patience. You might not share your routine online, but others around you might. Friends tag you at restaurants. Colleagues mention your whereabouts in passing. A neighbor comments on your schedule. Bit by bit, these details form a clear picture of your life, and a silent observer is paying close attention. Once they gather enough information, they begin to insert themselves into your world. They show up where you are, strike up conversations, and make it seem like a random meeting. But something feels off. Their presence is too consistent. They know things they shouldn't. They always seem to be one step ahead. And yet when you try to explain it to yourself or others, you hesitate. You don't want to seem paranoid. But this isn't paranoia. This is strategic surveillance. So how do you protect yourself? First, sharpen your awareness, not with fear, but with presence. Ask yourself, who always seems to be where I am, who knows things they shouldn't, who makes me uneasy even if they've never done anything obviously wrong. Your instincts exist for a reason. The human brain is wired to detect subtle threats even before we consciously process them. That feeling in your gut, it's a survival tool. Don't ignore it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought." If you keep dismissing your instincts, you allow these observers to remain hidden, and that's exactly what they want. The best way to defend yourself is not through paranoia, but through unpredictability. Break your patterns, change your routines. Don't be so easy to track. The harder you are to predict, the less appealing you become as a target. Most importantly, trust your intuition. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And in situations where your peace, privacy, or even safety is at stake, the worst mistake you can make is assuming that no one is watching, because someone might be. And they're not watching by accident. They're watching because they're planning something, and unless you recognize it early, you won't realize it until they've already made their move. The quiet betrayal. Not every attack comes with a warning. Some are slow, subtle, and carefully hidden beneath the surface like poison dropped into your drink unnoticed until it's too late. The most dangerous enemies are not the ones who openly confront you. They are the ones who smile, nod, and quietly begin to unravel everything you've built. This is betrayal in its most calculated form. It does not come crashing through the front door. It slips in through the back undetected and begins to erode your world from the inside out. Take Alex, for example. He was doing well-respected, productive, and well-liked at work, but things started to shift. At first, it was small. His manager, once enthusiastic about his ideas, suddenly seemed distant. Colleagues who used to chat with ease now offered only brief smiles. Conversations ended quickly. Invitations to team lunches disappeared. The office hadn't changed, but something had. Alex began to feel like an outsider. He questioned himself. Had he said something wrong? Was he imagining it? But as time passed, the pattern grew clear. A joke he made was twisted into something offensive. Credit for a project he led was quietly redirected. Comments about his attitude surfaced, vague but damaging. It wasn't bad luck or misunderstanding. It was sabotage. And it was working. This is the essence of quiet betrayal. It doesn't come with a single blow. It comes as a series of tiny cuts. A rumor here, a whisper there, a misinterpreted comment turned into suspicion. Not outright lies, just enough distortion to make people hesitate, enough doubt to make others step back. The person behind it rarely gets their hands dirty. Instead, they plant seeds and let others water them. And by the time you realize what's happening, the damage is already done. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by scheming senators and advisors, once wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know the truth." People often believe perception over reality. They follow whispers more readily than facts. If your sense of worth is built on the approval of others, you'll always be vulnerable. But if it's built on your integrity, your character, and your actions, no rumor can destroy you. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming betrayal must be loud or dramatic. But in truth, betrayal often wears the mask of concern. It arrives disguised as advice wrapped in subtle manipulation. The goal is always the same: to isolate you, shake your confidence, and make you easier to control or remove. So how do you protect yourself? First, remember that your reputation may be fragile, but your character is not. Others can influence how you are seen, but they cannot define who you are. As Epictetus said, if someone speaks ill of you, do not defend yourself. Instead, live in such a way that no one believes them. Second, observe without paranoia, but do not ignore patterns. If confusion and conflict constantly follow a particular person, pay attention. If trust around you is crumbling without explanation, look for the source. The wise don't jump to conclusions, but they don't close their eyes either. Finally, strengthen your inner circle. Isolation makes you easier to manipulate. Surround yourself with people who know your truth, who have seen your consistency, and who stand with you not because of rumors, but because of trust. Seneca once advised, associate with those who make you a better man. True allies are those who see through lies and stay grounded in your truth. Betrayal doesn't always roar. Often it whispers. But no whisper can destroy you if you stand firm, stay aware, and refuse to let someone else's lies define your reality. The mask of friendship. The most dangerous enemy is not the one who stands across from you with open hostility. It is the one who stands beside you, smiling, nodding, and listening while secretly preparing to destroy everything you've built. True betrayal doesn't come from strangers. Strangers don't know where to strike. Betrayal comes from those who have earned your trust, those you've allowed into your most personal spaces. And by the time you see who they really are, it's often too late. Take Adam, for instance. He was known for being careful with his trust. He was successful, well-respected, and proud of the strong, genuine relationships he had built over the years. He wasn't naive. He knew the world could be deceptive. So when he met Eric, a seemingly supportive business associate, he didn't jump in blindly. At first, Eric seemed like the perfect partner, helpful, charismatic, and always available. He praised Adam's ideas, encouraged his vision, and quickly became a close confidant. In just a few months, Eric was more than a business connection. He was invited to dinners, met Adam's family, and knew details about his fears, dreams, and frustrations. Then things started to unravel. Deals Adam had been working on suddenly collapsed, only for Eric to swoop in and close them himself. Private concerns Adam had shared in confidence began to resurface, twisted and reshaped, making him look unstable or paranoid. And when Adam finally confronted Eric, he was met with gaslighting. Eric dismissed everything with a laugh or a casual, "You're overthinking it," or "I'd never do that to you." But the pattern was undeniable. The very person Adam had trusted most had slowly, deliberately, and quietly dismantled him, not through confrontation but through calculated deception. This is what makes false friends so dangerous. Unlike open enemies, they don't argue with you. They don't challenge you directly. Instead, they position themselves as your biggest supporters. They earn your trust, gain access to your world, and then weaponize the very things you shared with them. Stoic philosophy warns against blind trust, not out of cynicism, but out of a clear understanding of human nature. Marcus Aurelius once observed that those who are quickest to prove their loyalty are often the first to betray. Real trust is not built overnight. It is proven slowly through consistent action, not empty words. False friends, on the other hand, fast-track the process. They don't wait for trust to develop naturally. They push to get close as quickly as possible. And once they are inside your world, they begin collecting. Your routines, your weaknesses, your secrets, all disguised as caring interest. So how do you spot them? Start by looking at behavior, not words. Has someone suddenly taken a strong interest in your personal life? Have they gone from distant acquaintance to eager confidant? Do they ask questions that seem helpful but probe too deeply? A genuine friend wants to uplift you. A false friend wants access. Ask yourself if someone in your life builds you up while also feeding your doubts. Do they support your dreams but subtly point out everything that could go wrong? Do they encourage you, yet seem to benefit when you fail? History is filled with stories of betrayal from within. Julius Caesar trusted Brutus only to find him among his assassins. As Seneca once warned, a prosperous man often has more to fear from his friends than his enemies. So protect your inner world. Not everyone deserves to know your goals, fears, or vulnerabilities. As Epictetus wisely said, the more you reveal of yourself, the more power others have to use it against you. Be kind but not blind. Be open but not exposed. And most importantly, never confuse rapid closeness with true friendship. Time reveals true intentions. Let it. The gradual attack. No one descends into violence or destruction overnight. Before a storm breaks, the air changes. The clouds darken. The wind shifts. Nature always sends signals, and people do too. When someone harbors true malice, they rarely act all at once. Instead, they test boundaries. They escalate slowly. They push little by little to see how far they can go without resistance. If you fail to notice the early signs, you may not realize the danger until it's too late. Look at the example of Lee Harvey Oswald, the man who assassinated President John F. Kennedy. He didn't suddenly wake up and decide to commit one of the most infamous crimes in American history. His descent into violence followed a pattern. He had a long-standing history of resentment, ideological obsession, and erratic behavior. He defected to the Soviet Union, returned, disillusioned, and continued to grow more isolated and angry. Before targeting Kennedy, he had already attempted to kill retired General Edwin Walker. That attempt failed, but it was a clear warning sign of what was to come. Oswald refined his approach, observed reactions, and escalated in silence. By the time he pulled the trigger in Dallas, the path to that moment had been forming for years. This is how the gradual attack works. It begins with small, seemingly harmless behaviors, a joke with a dark edge, a look that lingers too long, or a statement made with a smirk and just enough ambiguity to be dismissed. Then it grows into more blatant boundary violations. Someone stands too close, blocks your way in conversation, or brushes against you with just a little too much force. You tell yourself it's nothing, but it's not nothing, it's a test. As things escalate, the threats become more obvious, yet still cloaked in sarcasm or feigned humor. Casual comments about harm, warnings disguised as jokes, all delivered with enough deniability to be dismissed as harmless until they're not. Every time you stay silent or laugh it off, it tells them something you won't resist. And once they're convinced of that, they push even further. History repeats this pattern. Mark David Chapman, the man who killed John Lennon, didn't act impulsively. He spent months watching Lennon. He waited outside the building. He even got Lennon's autograph just hours before the murder. Friends had heard disturbing remarks from him, saw odd behaviors, but ignored them, thinking he was just eccentric. Until he wasn't. The lesson from Stoicism is not to fear danger, but to recognize it with clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Avoiding problems does not make them disappear. Refusing to confront threats only gives them more room to grow. So what can you do? First, recognize the pattern. If someone consistently makes inappropriate comments, invades your personal space, or displays aggressive behavior, don't brush it off. These are not random incidents, they are signals. Second, establish clear boundaries. A Stoic does not overreact, but they also do not tolerate unnecessary threats. Address the behavior calmly but firmly. Make it clear that you are not an easy target. Third, if escalation continues, take action. Keep records, document repeated offenses or threatening behavior. Seek help from authority figures, whether at work within your community or through legal channels. Don't wait for things to spiral before acting. As Seneca once wrote, a sword never kills anybody by itself. It is merely the tool of the one who wields it. Violence is not spontaneous. It is the end result of ignored warnings and unchecked behaviors. Fear thrives in ignorance. Power grows through awareness, through boundaries, and through decisive action. No one falls into chaos in one step. It begins with many small ones. The key is recognizing them before they take you somewhere you can't come back from. The long game. Some threats are loud, impulsive, and easy to spot. They yell, confront, and act out of emotion. These people reveal themselves quickly. Their intentions are obvious and their actions are predictable. But the ones you should truly fear are the quiet ones, the patient ones, the ones who wait. A dangerous enemy doesn't strike in anger. They move with intention. They listen. They observe. They gather information slowly, and when the timing is perfect, they act in a way that leaves no room for defense. By the time they make their move, the damage is irreversible. These people play the long game. Unlike the emotional aggressor, the long game player doesn't give you a chance to see the attack coming. They aren't interested in quick revenge or dramatic confrontations. Instead, they focus on positioning. They quietly embed themselves into your life, appearing harmless, even supportive. But underneath, they are calculating every step. Think about your relationships. Has anyone taken a deep, unusual interest in your life? Not just casual conversations, but persistent curiosity about your goals, your struggles, your future plans. Sometimes that interest is genuine. Other times it is strategic. Because to someone playing the long game, information is power. They aren't just listening, they're mapping out your life. And the most unsettling part, these people rarely raise red flags. They present themselves as the least threatening person in the room. Friendly, trustworthy, loyal. They stay close all while quietly studying you. They collect your weaknesses, your insecurities, and your patterns. Then they wait for the perfect moment when you're most exposed, most dependent, or most distracted. History offers countless examples. Julius Caesar faced many enemies in his life, but the one he trusted most, Brutus, stood among his assassins. That betrayal was only possible because of closeness and patience. The long game works because it builds trust first, then destroys it completely. This kind of enemy doesn't lash out. They don't start fights or show jealousy. Instead, they encourage you, cheer for your success, and play the role of a loyal companion. All the while, they are preparing for the day they will strike when it benefits them most and hurts you the worst. So how can you protect yourself? First, pay close attention to those who show a deep, consistent interest in your private life. Not everyone who asks questions is a threat. But if someone seems unusually invested in every detail of your world, take note. Second, guard your personal information. The Stoics believed in self-reliance and measured speech. You don't have to share everything with everyone. The more people know about your vulnerabilities, the easier it becomes for them to use that knowledge against you. Third, trust patterns, not words. A true friend proves their loyalty over time, especially when they have nothing to gain. Anyone can be kind when it benefits them. But character is revealed in silence and consistency, and in how someone treats you when no one is watching. A person who plays the long game thrives on access. The only way to beat them is to make sure they never get close enough to strike. Do not confuse closeness with loyalty, and do not confuse charm with trustworthiness. Marcus Aurelius once warned, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. People who spend their time planning your downfall will eventually act on it. Their silence is not peace, it is strategy. If someone in your life matches this pattern, do not ignore it. You're not facing petty jealousy or minor rivalry. You're facing a calculated threat, and survival in this case depends not on reaction, but on foresight. See it before it sees you, and protect your peace before it becomes a target. In today's world, the greatest threats to your peace and progress often don't come from obvious enemies, but from people who disguise themselves as friends, supporters, or even mentors. The lesson from all 5 signs: the silent observer, the quiet betrayal, the mask of friendship, the gradual attack, and the long game is simple but profound. Protect your inner world. Be selective with your trust. Not everyone who listens deserves to know your fears, goals, or routines. Some people gather information not to support you, but to control or undermine you later. Begin practicing intentional awareness. Pay attention to patterns, not just words. Ask yourself who always seems to be around when things go wrong, or who benefits when I struggle. If someone's presence consistently brings confusion, doubt, or emotional exhaustion, it may not be a coincidence. Protect your peace by maintaining boundaries, changing your routines, and refusing to overshare. Even when someone appears supportive, let time test their intentions. Real friends prove themselves through consistent loyalty, not fast-track closeness. If your instincts raise red flags, listen. Intuition is a survival tool. The Stoics taught that we cannot control others, but we can control what we allow into our lives. Let your life be guided not by fear, but by discernment. You do not need to be paranoid, just present, clear-minded, and guarded in the right ways. Build your self-worth on your actions, not the shifting opinions of others. Know who you are, live with integrity, and let your character speak louder than rumors. And above all, do not ignore discomfort in your relationships. Where there is discomfort, there is often truth waiting to be acknowledged. Whether in the workplace, in friendships, or even within family, remember this. Those who seek to harm you quietly can only succeed if you let them get too close, know too much, or catch you off guard. Be calm, be watchful, be resilient. Your peace is not something to hand over blindly. It is something to guard with wisdom and courage every single day.